If something ever happened to you, they're just going to find another builder. When he's faced with challenge, he asks himself, what would a great leader do? Not what would I do? What would somebody in a leadership role do? But what would a great leader do? So your listeners out there that are faced with a challenge, take a step back and say, hey, what would a great leader do in this situation?
My guest today is Brian Baber, founder of BCB Construction and a AR Homes builder. How do you lead with character when the pressure is on?
The number one reason a custom home builder will be referred is not quality, it's not price, it's not how long it took to build the house, it was the communication.
Welcome back to the Advisor AI Solutions podcast, the show where we highlight leaders shaping the future of sustainable building, construction innovation, and the mindset frameworks that drive long-term success. Today, we're diving into a conversation I've been looking forward to about leadership, integrity, and intentional growth in the custom home building world. And joining me is someone who truly lives these principles. My guest today is Brian Baber, founder of BCB Construction and a AR Homes builder. He's respected custom home builder, business coach, and active member of a Builder 20 group, a mastermind of elite builders across the country dedicated to sharpening each other's craftsmanship, systems, and leadership. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jordan. Glad to be here, man.
So, Brian, you have built a reputation for leading with integrity, investing deeply in your team, and developing a culture where craftsmanship and character carry equal weight. So, I also understand you're a very passionate family man and a massive advocate for All Pro Dad, which is an
Yeah,
organization
okay.
focused on intentional fatherhood, mentorship, and building strong homes, both literally and figuratively.
Yeah, I guess we work on the inside and the outside, right?
That's terrific. I'd love to
Yeah.
see someone who's has that focus 360, because you can grow on the outside, but you really got to start on the inside, right?
Yeah. So, where would you like to start? You want to start with some of the soft stuff, the all pro dad stuff, or the construction side?
Well, how about before we jump into the stories and insights, I'd love to anchor the episode with today's theme, which is leadership in the custom home space and how to
Okay.
navigate major business challenges with integrity, clarity, as well as an intention. Does that work?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So important.
Okay, so Brian, when you look at the industry right now, complexity in supply chain shifting, client expectations, interest rate impacts, maybe, or even staffing challenges, which I know is huge. What does leadership done right mean to you? As we exit 2025.
Leadership done right. I think it's modeling it, modeling what you want, building leaders within your team. So you see, you have these, as the owner or the building company president or the leader of an organization, you have the responsibility to lead your team up. So you have the responsibility to teach them to become leaders, each person in your organization, because really everyone has an opportunity to lead. And you want to lead with integrity, like you said, and being authentic. So, are we doing the same things in our personal lives that we're doing in our work life? Are we the same person at home, at work? All of those things, just being able to model it well so that you can say, hey, do as I do.
Right. No, I like that. Model it well. So, as far as modeling it, what would you say has shaped your leadership style? Did it happen to be
Yeah.
mentors, maybe early experiences?
Yeah, well, probably doing it wrong, is waking up to some of those things that along the way, I've been building for 22 years now, and that would have meant we went through the Great Recession, right? And uh, just I remember some of the weight that felt and that put on me during that time, and I allowed it to negatively impact some of my relationships, close relationships that I really valued, but was not uh, maybe treating those people the way that I knew I should be treating them because of difficulties, right? And so just maybe doing that wrong at first and then being woken up to, hey, relationships more important than anything else here, right? And I have a wonderful father who was in business with me, and I remember one day him saying, "Hey, you know what? this was when things were going hard. I just remember him saying to me, "Hey, our relationship is more important than this business is to me. If I need to step away from it, so be it. But you're more important to me than the company." And that was a wake up call for me. And I had to take a hard look at my own self to say, and maybe I'm behaving in a certain way. And I was just frustrated. Really, the market's crashed. You're doing everything you can do to stay alive, and alive in the business. And I just remember that feeling of, hey, I need to take a step back and look at this. And then that kind of just triggered, a whole bunch of other things where you're like, okay, well, how am I treating my family and that. So I've got plenty of stories along the line of the Great Recession
Right.
to look back on.
Well, 22 years of construction, I can only imagine how much experience has shaped you and the trials and tribulations that have really molded who you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things I was thinking about the other day, I was telling somebody about giving them an analogy of the airplane mode. The airplane mode on your phone. If you have an iPhone, it's called airplane mode. And there was a point in time I remember that I just made an appointment for the weekend with one of my clients. And as a home builder, a lot of times, you're working around other people's schedules, maybe in the evenings, maybe on the weekends. And I had young kids too. And I remember I made that appointment. And then I just had this realization. I'm like, you just pushed aside, your family's plans for the weekend in order for you to meet with that client. And if something ever happened to you, they're just going to find another builder. But if something was to happen to you with respect to your family, who's going to step in? And it was really just one of those epiphanies, a fork in the road for me, where I realized that I needed to modify the way I was spending my time. And I'll always look back at that as my airplane mode moment. And I learned to, when I pull in the driveway, to put my phone on airplane mode. And I remember at the first time I did that, I thought the world would end. How am I going to respond to all these needs in the evenings and the weekends? But I decided to put my family first. And yeah, have I probably not done as much business as I could have? Probably so. But I also have, I've been married now for 23 years, happily married, let me say. I have four wonderful kids. We have wonderful relationships, and I wouldn't trade that for anything.
No, you're so right. And that absolutely resonates with myself, Brian. As I just had well, I guess a year and a half ago, had my first son. And,
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
being
Congrats,
constantly
man.
reminded that, thank you. And constantly being reminded by my wife to be more present in his, in his growth and as he develops, right? And I always want him
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
look at me as someone who was observing him rather than caught up in his own other priorities, whether it be work or hobbies or whatever. But you're so right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so
I mean, there's only
invaluable.
one person that, yeah, there's only one person that can be his dad, right? And there's only one person that can be your wife's husband. And that's you. Those two roles in our life are the only roles that are not replaceable. And so we need to find the proper spot for those roles. And then we go out, that's our inner circle. Then we go out to our next circle and we say, okay, well, now how can I lead well in my organization with my company? How can I pour into my people and develop them like we started talking about as leaders? And it just grows out from there. But you have to have a core of who it is you want to be first, and decide that, and then go out from there.
Absolutely, you need a sound foundation, or everything else will fall apart.
Yeah. We talk about core values in our organization, and we've identified, a list of core values, about five. And I know, if you read business books and leadership books, it's you got to hire based on core values rather than the skills or talents that someone has, because you can train those things, right? But the core values are things that they either have them or they don't. And so one of the things that I'll do in our company is that if I'm interviewing somebody, or just meeting somebody for the first time that might be a good fit for us down the road, I'll just walk them down our hallway, and we have these words posted on the wall, and I'll say, "Hey, this is a word." I don't even say core value. I just say, hey, this is an important word to us. Maybe it's dedication to excellence, or kindness is one, integrity is another, sense of urgency." And I'll just pause at each one of those, and I'll say, "What does that mean to you?" and I'll get a pretty good sense real quickly if they get it or they don't. And just doing that activity that's I would say that's probably a good leadership skill, is to be able to understand the type of person you're going to hire. Are they going to fit within your core values of your existing team?
No, I love that idea actually, to be able to not necessarily test them, but be able to have a feel out for someone before you
Yeah,
actually bring them onto your team and have them amalgamated. Okay,
yeah,
so Brian, in custom home building, so
hmm,
much hinges on trust, timeline, budgets, and craftsmanship.
yeah,
How do you
hmm,
lead with character when the pressure is on?
yeah. Well, we have to have a process, right? Well, let me back up. I mean, you start with a team that has the core values that you want to exemplify for your company, right? You have to start with that. And we've had people on our team before that they just didn't have the same core values, and they just were not a good fit. And it becomes evident pretty quickly that that's the case. And they may have the skill set, but if they don't have the core values, they're not going to be a good fit for your team. But to take that a step further is you have to have the right processes in place, right? You have to measure the things that you care about. You have to have good communication. I remember there was an article I read years ago, and I saved it, and I get it out and read it every now and then. And it said the number one reason a custom home builder will be referred is not quality, it's not price, it's not how long it took to build the house. It was the communication. How well did they communicate with the buyer? And so we've looked at, hey, how can we communicate better with our customers? We have, right at the very beginning, we tell them, we kind of paint a roadmap for them. We actually have a visual of what that looks like, and we show them the roadmap of what it's going to look like to build the house, and we stay in touch with them. So from the time they sign a contract to the time we start construction, we have a project manager. It's kind of the in the office person. That person reaches out to them every Friday and just gives them an update. Hey, this is what happened this week. And that could be for months. I mean, you're in the permitting process and the design process and maybe the color selections, and they're picking out all their finishes and stuff. And sometimes there's not a lot happening, but you're just waiting for something. You're waiting for a permit or an engineer or something to happen. But they get used to, they don't have to wonder where you are in the process. They know you're going to call them on Friday or send them an email and say, hey, this is what happened this week. This is what we plan on doing next week. So then we do that from the sign of contract to the time we start. And then when we start the house until the time we finish it, that's handed off to the construction manager, and that's the person in the field, and that person updates them every single week. They either get a phone call on Friday, or we actually do a video of their house too. So one of our construction managers decided to just kind of take it up to the next level, and that was a really cool thing that he did. Is he takes a video of the house, puts it to music, puts words on the screen, and he's talking in the background to them and telling them the things that they're looking at in this video. Because a lot of times we're building homes for people out of state, particularly along the coast where we build high end custom homes, and these are people, this might be their second or third home, or maybe it's a home they're going to ultimately move to. But them getting to see their home during the process, knowing that we're engaged with them the entire time, just having something like that. I mean, just that constant communication where they're not having to reach out to us to ask us what's going on. And because I've been on the other side of it before too. You decided to buy something or build something or do some long-term project, and when you're the one having to reach out all the time to ask, you're wondering, you know, who's moving the needle, right? Or who's pushing this noodle across the table for me? Am I important to you? And we want every one of our customers to feel like they're our most important customer.
Well, I love that idea of the video updates weekly, right? Being able to provide your clients a clear line of sight, be able to set
Mm-hmm.
the expectation and almost over deliver. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said about talk about communication, right? And you can never over communicate with the client, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, particularly in custom homes. Production is another world, but custom homes, this is their baby. This is oftentimes this is their the people that we build for. It's their forever home, right? And so them getting to see that how engaged we are during the process and getting those constant updates. And so we'll rotate. One week we'll do a phone call, the next week we'll do a video, and just we'll get a feel for each customer as to what's important to them and what their schedule is like, and we'll just continue to try to update them like that. But we do it on a weekly basis.
Oh, that's terrific. Okay, Brad. So I kind of touched on it, but you were also part of a Builder 20 mastermind.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I think that's actually how we connected. One of the guys in my Builder 20 club actually connected me with you a few months ago, and it's a group of builders. I've been in the group since 2009, so 16 years. And twice a year we meet with each other and we rotate. Um, we have guys all the way out as far as Oregon, as far out west as Oregon, northeast is Cape Cod, South Florida. I'm in the Panhandle of Florida. North Carolina, Oklahoma, Cincinnati. I mean, we've got guys all over the country. So the unique thing about that is we don't compete with each other. So we're not in each other's markets, right? And because we don't compete, we share knowledge, we share information, what's working well. Hey, this is a new technology, if you will, or this is a new process, or this is a new way to market that I'm doing. That hey, this might benefit the whole group. So twice a year we meet for a week. Well, it's really Tuesday to Friday, but you're together for those 4 days, and all you're doing is helping each other. So we do what's something called builder updates, where we fill out a form that says basically this is where we are, this is the things that have happened, and we also talk about personal stuff too, like how things are going in our personal life. And then we talk about hey, how many days or how many hours a week are you working? Have you had any new hires? What are your sales like that? What is your profit margins? Those types of things. So we share all of that information. Um, and then one of the huge benefits to it is I mentioned to you that we rotate where we meet. And so at each time we rotate, we interview each other's offices, if you will. Okay. So our whole team I was actually the most recent host. They came to my town. And so they come into my office and they get in groups of say 3 or so, and then they rotate around and they spend 10 or 15 minutes with each employee talking to that person about, hey, what are some of Brian's blind spots, perhaps, right? What are some things? What if you were in Brian's seat? What would you do? Those types of things. Do you have all of the tools that you need? Maybe some things come out and they did. Things came out in the meeting that maybe they weren't. Maybe the team didn't feel comfortable bringing it to me. This was a great way to bring it to me, bring it to my attention, and so it gives me an opportunity to improve our team as a whole by that interview process. And so I'll just stop for 1 second and say if any of your listeners are, I'm sure a lot of them are builders, but if they're not in a Builder 20 club, I would highly recommend doing that. The way to find one is to contact the National Home Builders Association, and they can put you in touch with different Builder 20 groups. And basically you interview with different groups until you find a good fit. But it's been invaluable. And those relationships, we don't just meet we don't just meet twice a year, but one of the guys, he and I, we have a monthly phone call every month we speak, right? And then another guy, he's doing some coaching with me on sales techniques. And so we're spending time each week on the phone talking about how to improve sales and things. So just it's the kind of relationship where each person is really trying to add value to the group, and you end up getting so much by giving so much.
No, I love that concept. I can only imagine that the level of content, concepts, and ideas that get passed around, at these different sessions that you guys have, but then also the opportunity to create new relationships. But then to go even further is to kind of drop your ego and to accept these different critiques as well,
Oh yeah,
which is I can only imagine be so massive
yeah,
on many
yeah.
different levels, right? To open your world to a potential competitor, but not in this case, obviously, and to be able to be evaluated in that sense.
Yeah, the guys that learn the most are the ones that can leave their ego at the door. I mean, and that's hard for, if you've ever been in a room of home builders, usually the ego comes along with that territory, and but these are what I have found is the guys that want to do better are the ones that will listen to the advice of others in the group. And that's the thing about advice too, you can choose to take it or not. So, you
No,
know,
certainly.
so there'll be, I remember over the years, there's been, you have an employee that maybe not be performing very well or something. And then that your meeting's coming up. And I remember one time it was like, I don't want to show back up at that meeting and tell them that I have not done something about that yet. And so there's an accountability there. And so when you're accountable to somebody and you're going to stand before that group and say, hey, here's my update. And they're going to say, well, we've been telling you this, and what are you going to do about it? And so it's the goal is to rise the tide for the whole group.
I love that. Okay, so Brian, so you have 22 years in construction business. You're
Mhm.
part of this mastermind, and now you are also taking your experiences and your lessons, and you're coaching other builders now as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, not necessarily builders, but other business owners. So I also teach entrepreneurship at Florida State University, and I've been doing that for about 8 years as well. And that kind of led to I realized I really enjoyed essentially coaching people, helping people along, and they have this idea and they're trying to flesh it out, and being able to help them. And so all the some people like to read a lot of books and learn, and they're constant lifelong learners, and others want to maybe just give me the nuggets from what you've learned, right? And so a lot of times the people that end up wanting coaching are people that, hey, I just want to know, here, what are the 5 things I need to go practice right now, right? And so a lot of times that ends up being the type of client that wants to be coached. But I love helping people. I love watching people succeed, and so coaching has become something that I've really started doing. I just started it a couple years ago, and I've just really enjoyed it.
That's great. Okay, so when a potential student comes to you overwhelmed, what is their typical issue? Is it pipeline issues, some culture headaches, or is it just the pressures of being a business owner in general?
It's when you say student, are you referring to a college student or someone that's a business owner?
Someone's a business owner that's looking for coaching. Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, so a lot of times it's just afraid to make a mistake, right? Because the mistakes in college are not financial. Typically, it's your grade, right? But as a business owner, the mistakes are, more it's going to be financial, and you're also got other people's lives at stake, their livelihood at stake. So being able to have really helping them look at it from different angles, because we all have this bias, right? We all we see it the way I see it, and then a coach can help you come in, take a step back, and look at it from different angles. Tom Brady had a coach. Nobody could throw the ball better than him, but he still had a coach, because the coach could say, hey, Tom, can you look at it from this angle or from this perspective? Or, hey, I want you to take this into consideration. Someone to help him think about other things. And so we really, we all need a coach. And something you mentioned earlier about mentorships and mentors, is that's something I've had a mentor for years in my life. And that's something I encourage everyone to get, is a mentor. A mentor is somebody that's just a little bit ahead of you, right? Or maybe a lot ahead of you, if you can get if you're that fortunate to find that kind of mentor. But somebody that maybe has some of the same ideals that you have, the core values we talked about. I think that's really important to make sure those things line up. And it allows you to think, what about your business, about your life, from the perspective of somebody that's maybe 10 years ahead of you.
Right.
And that's invaluable. And so, I guess kind of a coach is kind of a mentor also. There's a lot of mentorship involved with that as well.
Right. It's so important. You have to be able to remove those blinders and to look
Yeah.
at it at other angles, like you said. All right. So most custom builders out there, a lot of them will stall out at a ceiling, or maybe some of them even expand or grow too fast, and then everything breaks. Right. In your experience,
Yeah.
Brian, how does a builder scale intentionally successfully?
Yeah. Well, let me also say we're a smaller builder, and so we haven't scaled to be a huge custom home builder in our market. We happen to be in a small market, and so that is something that you need to take into consideration. A lot of times, I'll have students that say, "Hey, I want to create this new business," and I'll say, "Well, where are you going to do that?" And they're going, "Well, I want to do it here in Panama City." I'm like, "Okay, well, great. You know how many people live here? Well, how many people are your target market inside of Panama City?" Another analogy I'll say is there's not a Mercedes dealership. There's not a Lexus dealership in Panama City. There's a reason. There's just not enough people that can afford Lexuses and Mercedes here. Otherwise, there would be a dealership. Now, we're probably going to get one in the coming years, but you have to look at your market to say, how much size, how big can you grow? And so, I mean, for our market size, we're a healthy size business, but in terms of scaling, that's books like the E-Myth would be an excellent resource for somebody and understanding how to you got to build a process so that you can expand outward. Um, and so again, hire people based on core values, get the right people on your bus, right? They'll find the right seats. That's Jim Collins, good to great, and then expand out. So build your bench, get the right people on, and expand out from there. Now, I'll mention this: a failed attempt I made at expanding several years ago was this, and it was so I acknowledged that there was only so big our market could be for the higher end custom home builder, and I mean. Our average price point is north of $1 million, and there's just not that many people building that level of home. So most of our homes are in maybe three neighborhoods and on the water. Okay. And so Arthur Ruttenberg, they had created another line of homes at the time called Coriel Homes by Arthur Ruttenberg. It was called Coriel by Arthur Ruttenberg, and it had that Arthur Ruttenberg name attached to it, so people knew. So you're in California, right?
I was in California. I'm actually in
You're in
northern Canada now.
Northern Canada. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. In the Florida market, that's where Arthur Ruttenberg started years ago, 70 years ago or so, and he was known as the father of Florida home building. And just when you drive in Florida, you drive around and you go in, particularly when you're in South Florida, you'll see all these beautifully designed homes, and you'll say, "Oh, that looks like an Arthur Ruttenberg." It's either an Arthur Ruttenberg or a copy of one. Okay, and so he was known as the father of Florida home building. Well, in our market, there was only so many of that level of home that we could build. Okay, and so we said, "Hey, let's try this other line." And there it was a test on their side also. And I remember them telling me, they said, "Really, Brian, you need a completely separate building company. You need different employees. You need a different office." And I was like, I don't want to do all that. I'll just, we'll create another line is in our software. And I said, "Hey, we'll just do it. We'll just figure out how to do it in house." And that was a mistake, and it failed. It did fail. I mean, uh, and the reason why was this: the DNA of a custom home builder that builds at this level up here is different than the DNA of a semi-custom builder that builds here. Not that building here is wrong. It's just a different price point. It's a different product that's coming in the market, and it fits a different buyer. And so what we tried to do is we tried to get most of our existing subs to come down here. They're not used to building here. They're used to building up here. And so it just didn't fit. It was a bad fit. There was a neighborhood we had an opportunity to build, 60 some odd homes in, and we built maybe 10, 12 or so. And then one of the larger home builders, D.R. Horton is one of the largest, or is the largest national home builder. They came in, bought the neighborhood out, and built it out at the price point, at a much lower price point. But they built it, and it was that was a good fit for them. It wasn't a good fit for us, and it was us trying to be somebody that we really weren't. That's really the bottom line. It's like, when we're going through our specifications and we're saying, "Hey, we really need to do this. We need a level 5 finish on the drywall, or we need to, the amount of blocking that we use and the way we waterproof things, and all these things." We're like, "Oh, of course it has to be that. We need, every home needs that." Well, that's because of just the way that we are as a custom home builder is, we think it needs to have all of these special things, and the reality is it doesn't. For the lower price point homes, you need to change that, and it's hard for somebody to transition. So it's much easier. I'll say this: if you have listeners out there that are maybe they're building down here and they want to build up here, it's easier for them to go from here to here than it is for someone to go from here to here. And I'll just mention this: one of the guys in my builder club, he's a builder in Oklahoma, and he was a builder down here, and then he wanted to start building up in this level here. It was much easier for him to transition up to get go out and get better subs and to even train some of his existing subs to be able to build the higher level than it would be for someone like myself to go from here down to here.
That's so interesting how it's easier to go from a lower tier to a higher tier.
Yeah. Now there are extremes in every example. Okay, so I'm in a sweet spot that I'm trying to explain here. There is an upper tier that you're either up there or you're not, and the guys that are building down here don't need to be here. In fact, the guys that are here don't need to be up there either. It's just an ultra high end, and we have some of those areas around where we are that we don't even build in because it really is. It's just well over $1,000 a square foot, where we might be in the $400 range a square foot. It's just just a completely different animal.
Right. So just to kind of unpack that, it's absolutely crucial in what you're saying to identify who you are as a company and who you are serving for anything to be successful, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You want to identify what is the target market you're going after, what is the product that they need, and then serve them with that product well.
Right. Okay. So, Brian, for you guys at AR Homes and BCB Construction, what is the biggest bottleneck or challenge that you guys are facing right now, and how are you guys, solving that issue?
Well, it's changed over the years. There's always some bottleneck, and in fact, there is like I mentioned to you about liking to read books. There's a great book called The Goal. Okay, and it's told in the form of a story, but it uses the term bottleneck a lot, and the idea is to free up those bottlenecks. And I used to have a chart on my wall, and I would identify bottlenecks so I could laser focus my time on the bottlenecks and free the bottleneck up, right? So, we coming out of COVID, the bottlenecks were obviously supply chain issues, right? Getting products. Oh my goodness, we're going to build a house. Well, we better order the windows, right? Well, what are the size? Well, we don't know what the size are going to be yet but we got to order the windows, or we got to order the garage door, before you even start a house, because the supply chain was so backed up. And the pendulums can swing back and forth so far. Right now, what ended up happening over the last few years was prices ended up cost continued to escalate. Interest rates continue to tick up. And what that ended up doing is it pushed a lot of our would-be buyers out of the market. Okay. And it pushed them out of the market. So I mentioned to you, our sweet spot is it's obviously north of $1 million, but our sweet spot was in that like 1.2 to 1.5 range. Now we don't have anything under 2, but the buyers over 2 are at least the ones that we're working with right now are cash buyers, and they were not as affected by the interest rates as somebody that is trying to get into a home that is in that $1 million to $1.5 million range or so. And so I would say right now the bottleneck, at least for us, has been sales. That's where we've had to focus most of our energy. And we do creative things. We follow what lots sell in the neighborhoods that we would like to build in. We send out packets to them. We do a trickler, if you will. If we'll send a packet, and then we'll follow up a few weeks later with something else, and a few weeks later with something else, and that will cause them to reach out to us. That's a way to find buyers. Something else we do is we'll host events at our model home. We are proactive with working with realtors. So wherever that bottleneck is, particularly if it's in the sales side, you have to come at it from several different angles.
Right, and I'm sure the mastermind that you're a part of the Builder 20, that must come in handy as far as trying to generate different concepts and ideas as well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
But you know what's interesting is activity tends to breed activity, right? It's just the way it works. If somebody's interested in this particular lot that's been on the market for 3 years, I can assure you there's someone else that's very interested in that lot that's been available for the last 3 years also, and they're both going to put contracts within a month. It's just the way things work.
Right, right. Okay. So, as far as projects on your guys' plate right now, or maybe coming down the pipe, is there one that you could share with us that you're most excited about?
Projects that are most, well, I'll show you. There is a neighborhood that we're building in now that it's called Camp Creek, and we have a few homes going in there right now, and they're all anywhere from the 2 million to $4 million price range. And that neighborhood, I really, it really, it came out of nowhere. It was a company called the St. Joe Company, which is the largest landholder in Florida. Well, it was in Florida, and now it's in Northwest Florida. They sold off some of their South Florida holdings. But um, there's an. Are you familiar with the area called 30A?
I'm not, no.
38 on the Florida Panhandle. Okay. Well, there's a it's along the coast, and it's really it's in a category by itself. It is beautiful white sandy beaches. There's not a lot of hotels, right? So it's mostly homes, and there are these pockets of special neighborhoods. But the thing is, you get onto 30A, and in the high market season, you could be on 30A for an hour to go just a short distance. I mean, just the traffic can back up. And so I believe the St. Joe Company identified that, hey, there's a huge market for people that want to have these beautiful luxury homes. And when I say beautiful, and some of the homes that we're building are the small homes in that neighborhood. Like if we're doing and when I say we're in the 2 to 4 million, that's just home only. That doesn't include their lot. Okay. And so, when you add the lot on some of these homes, you could be five, six. There's probably close to $7 and $8 million homes in this neighborhood, and people are what's allowed is for people to get close to this 30A corridor, but not get into the traffic zone of it. And so it's unique in that itself. It's a beautiful gated community. It's got golf courses and beach access and such. But I would say Camp Creek is probably the thing that I'm most excited about probably because that's what we're building now. But every customer's home is unique, and we get excited about every home for every customer. So in our world, we have maybe, I don't know, 100 plans to choose from, but they're all modified. So we'll have customers say, well, I love this plan, but I want to add a second floor, or I just want to add a bathroom over here, or extra another owner suite. Oh, that's something. It's something that's interesting that's been happening. That wasn't happening a few years ago. Is people are asking for additional like VIP suites. So we have, you have the owner suite and you have your secondary bedrooms, right? Well, now people are wanting almost an additional master or owner side, but it's called a VIP suite. And the reason is we're seeing multi-generational in the same home. That's a big change that's been happening, and so I think I'm probably excited to see where that goes in the near future too.
That's cool. A VIP suite. So
Yeah.
is that so that you're not competing on space and
So I mentioned Arthur Ruttenberg being the father of Florida home building. Is he came up with the split bedroom floor plan years ago? Okay, where you have it was the master suite on one side and the secondary suites on the other side. Very, very limited number of hallways, so there's very little wasted space. And he designed that layout. Well, fast forward some time, people said, well, you know what, we want to have the owner side on one side of the house and the guest on the other side of the house, or the kids. But there's, as you go up in price point, you probably are also going up in age, right? So our average buyer is not in their 30s. Maybe there's some wealthy folks in their 30s buying, but most of them are going to be 50s, 60s, 70s. Okay. And so, but if you have someone in their 60s, oftentimes they have a parent that might be in their 80s. Okay. And so you're seeing this a lot of this the transition of wealth also. And so maybe that person in the 80s has wealth, but they don't want to go live in a facility, that is geared for senior living, and they want to stay with their family. And so maybe they chip in and they are part of building a larger home, but they want more privacy on their side of the home, and it's generally going to be on the opposite side as the owner suite.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love that though. That an
Yeah,
alternative to maybe an ADU or like you said, older elder living facilities.
yeah. And you think about, just rewind, if you were to talk to your grandparents, they probably took care of their parents when they aged, right? And
Hmm.
so we're seeing that we see these transitions. The pendulum will swing one way or the other, and I think we're seeing more and more of the people that can afford it. Hey, bring them into the home, and we'll do a larger home. So
Right. No, that's a wonderful idea. Okay, Brian. So I just wanted to dedicate a few minutes to something that that's super cool, and I know you're obviously a huge supporter of. We kind of touched on it earlier, but you're a huge supporter of All Pro Dad, which is such a powerful movement. How has fatherhood impacted your leadership at work, and maybe vice versa?
yeah. Well, leadership at work, fatherhood. I'll say this is one of the things people know at our organization is if they have something for their kids that day at work, they're at work and maybe their kid has a play or they have a game or something. Absolutely. I want them to take off and go spend time. They'll never be able to replace that time watching their kids. So I, I lead by example there, and I want others to take off time to go spend time with their families. Okay. All Pro Dad, the way that kind of came into my life years ago was a very good friend of mine told me about that's a daily blog for men. And it's just if you just went onto the All Pro Dad website and you subscribe to what's called Play of the Day, and basically it's Monday through Friday. You get an email from them about fatherhood. Maybe it's about being a better husband. Maybe it's about being a better dad. Maybe it's about some of the things that kids these days are going through that we didn't go through as kids. And so I started reading that and I was like, man, this is some really good information. And then they have this database of, like, for example, let's just say your kid's dealing with, I don't know, bullying, okay, at school. Well, you could go onto Google and you could type in bullying or something, or and you're going to get 900 million hits. And maybe the information is not good. Maybe it's not coming from a good source, and maybe it's not going to be helpful to you. But what All Pro Dad is a trusted source, and so they have vetted writers that writes for All Pro Dad. And so, yeah, if there's an issue, you can go on there and type, and maybe it has to do with uh, teens and social media or something, and you want to just know, hey, what is good advice here? I want to navigate that. And one day you're going to be dealing with that, man. And I don't. It's hard. I'll just say it's hard. It's one of the hardest things that we have that our kids are facing right now, because it's an epidemic of the way that they feel like they're being judged and looking at the world, at everybody's wonderful lives, that it's just their billboard, right? So anyway, fast forward. I got started getting involved with All Pro Dad, reading the thing, and then I saw one day that they have these All Pro Dad chapters, and I said, well, maybe our school has a chapter. And I went online, and there wasn't a chapter at our school, and in fact, there wasn't one in all of Bay County. And I said, well, maybe I could start a chapter at our school. So I reached out to All Pro Dad and said, hey, I'm just a dad, and I like your stuff, but my kids go to this one school, and could I start a chapter? And they're like, of course, that's what we do. That's what we want you to do, right? And so what that is once a month. It's typically once a month. Dads will bring their kids to school that day, and then we have breakfast together, and we have a topic. And I lead it at my kids' school, and I've been doing it since 2019. And so we have anywhere from 150 to 200 people come, dads and kids. We meet in the gymnasium. We usually get people to sponsor it, and so we have Chick-fil-A breakfast. Do you have Chick-fil-A there in Canada?
We just got it this year, actually.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah. So okay. Well, enjoy. And so that brings a lot of people out is
Yeah.
having a Chick-fil-A breakfast. And so we'll have a topic. We'll talk about kindness or trustworthiness or accountability or a topic like that. But what it does is we start the meeting with what's called a pride moment. And the pride moment is where dad turns to the kid and says, "Hey, I'm proud of you because," and the dad tells the child, the son or daughter, "Hey, I'm proud of you because of something." And it's not, "I'm just proud of you." You know, that's easy to say. I'm proud of you, right? But it's, "I'm proud of you because I'm proud of you because of the way you treated your mom yesterday, even though you were under some stress," or "I'm proud of you because you did something without being asked to do." And those good things that you are you're affirming in their life, they're going to repeat those things. Okay. And so the meetings all start out that way, and then you tell them what the topic's going to be, and then you put up on the screen. We watch a little video of drilling at home. It's usually a little cartoon or something, a little couple minutes, and then it's, "Dad, say this to the kids," and then kids say this to the dads, and it's you're diving deeper into that conversation. "Tell me a time when you were dealing with somebody that wasn't trustworthy," or "Tell me a time when you had to be trustworthy." And then it's the kids getting to learn more about the dad's lives, right? And then the dad's turning to the kids and saying, "Hey, what does it mean to be trustworthy in your friend group or something?" It teaches them to go deeper, because as your kids get older, Jordan, one of the things you'll see is if you just say, "How was your day?" you're just going to hear good or fine or something. You gotta be able to have a conversation with them, and how to. And All Pro Dad teaches dads how to have deeper conversations with their kids. So anyway, so we've been doing it at our school for the last 6 years or so. And what's interesting is this past year, All Pro Dad reached out to me and said, "Hey, we've got a couple of extra chapters going now in Bay County, and I will always invite other schools, or if I hear somebody that goes to another school, say, hey, come to our All Pro Dad chapter and just see what it's like, and maybe you could start one at your school." So anytime I hear somebody that's interested in it, I'm always inviting them to come to us. Well, this past year, uh, All Pro Dad ended up getting a grant to be able to help start more schools. And so we went to our superintendent and said, "Hey, would you be interested?" And we showed him what All Pro Dad was about. "Would you be interested in maybe launching more All Pro Dad chapters in Bay County?" And he said yes. And so we're launching 10 new All Pro Dad chapters in Bay County. It's huge. We just had a big event at FSU in Panama City recently, where we had a number of folks there and we were talking about it. But it's very exciting what's happening. So we're getting All Pro Dad spread throughout our whole county, and our superintendent said he wants to have an All Pro Dad chapter in every single school.
Man, that's absolutely massive, Brian. I love everything you're doing there. Sounds like the expansion of it. It has a lot to do with the support you're providing, and just the concepts of it, and being able to dive deeper with your children. To have those deeper conversations, more authentic conversations, and to train them to become better people when they grow up. I know I for one will definitely be signing up for the play of the day. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, you'll love it. And one of the things, this is what happened. This is what the superintendent was explaining to us. He said, when dads are involved and dads come to the school, one, it looks like a unicorn, right? Because it's usually the mom there. It's usually not the dads. Okay. And so when the dad shows up, grades go up, disciplinary issues go down, right? And it benefits everybody, the school and the family, when dad is involved. And sometimes the dad is he's just trying to figure it out. I mean, like, you become a dad and then it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? And I think that's one of the core tenets that I have in my life also is I've tried to be a lifelong learner, you know, in leadership, right? In the business world, a lifelong learner of being a husband, a lifelong learner of being a father, and then being able to just be able to help others with that knowledge, to be able to help them be able to be better leaders, better husbands, better fathers too.
Right. That your passion definitely exudes in the way you talk about everything. Um, Brian, before we wrap things up today, um, for our listeners who want to learn from you, work with you, or explore coaching with you, where can people find you?
Okay, LinkedIn. Somebody can reach out to me on LinkedIn. just Brian Baber, or they can go to the Five Capitals website. Just go to Five Capitals, and I'm one of the coaches listed on there too.
All right, fantastic. I'll definitely post those notes in the description below. And we always end with a challenge to our listeners. Brian, if you could give our listeners, whether the builders, leaders in general, one action that they can take this week that would strengthen their business or maybe even their lives at home, what would that be?
Well, I want to steal a line from a great leader. His name is Andy Stanley. He happens to be a pastor, but he has this line when he's faced with a challenge. He asks himself, "What would a great leader do? Not what would I do, or what would somebody in a leadership role do, but what would a great leader do?" So, any of your listeners out there that are faced with a challenge, you know, take a step back take a step back and say, hey, what would a great leader do in this situation?
That's terrific. To be able to take that step back and reflect 100%, Brian.
I'll share one more thought is I don't remember which book this was in, but they were talking about this is like, what would happen when you're faced with a difficult thing? If say the C-suite was fired and a new C-suite came in, right, to lead the organization, what would they do? Right? Because sometimes we get stuck with all these sacred cows, and that was actually one of the things that came up at my Builder 20 last meeting is that Brian has some sacred cows, and don't touch the sacred cows, right? And I had to release those sacred. I had to come back in and talk to my team about it and say, hey, I need to release these sacred cows because in order for you to do your job well, I need to be able to take my hand off of certain things. And so, what would a great leader do? And what would somebody do if somebody was stepping into this role that didn't have the sacred cows, didn't have all the bias attached to what they want to do? What would they do? Because we get attached to some of those things, and it hinders us being able to make wise decisions.
I love that. Well, Brian, this was powerful. Your commitment to integrity, coaching, that lifelong leadership in your community, it really does stand out. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with all of us.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed talking to you, Jordan.
Absolutely. And to everyone tuning in, if you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe, share it with a builder, friend, and stay tuned for more leaders shaping the future of construction, sustainability, and modern craftsmanship. And until next time, automate the ordinary and scale the extraordinary. Peace.